Hey, good evening, my friends. How are you? Welcome to another edition of Wednesday Night Live with me, Mike Avery, here in my home studio tonight, as I have been really for the last several. Evening, Craig. Randy, how are you? Cliff, nice to have you along with us. Captain JT, Michelle, appreciate you all being along with us on this edition of Wednesday Night Live. Dan, Rick, change my resolution here so I can see my screen a little better. And we'll see now if I remembered to unloop the audio. Excellent. Rick, good evening. Jeff, Bruce, Bob, how are you, my friends? Glad to have you with us on another edition of Wednesday Night Live with me, Mike Avery, here. Wednesday, isn't that picture of that coyote interesting, Tim? That's the same guy who sent me the video last week of the doe with 4 fawns trailing her. If you look at the scenery, the background, it's the same shot. It's the same camera. It's framed the same, but this time there's a coyote walking through it with a fawn in his mouth. Where's the air conditioning? Ed says, everything is real good here, David. How about you? Stolen Willow. Well, is it Tim? Is it Jen? Or is it Stolen Willow I'm talking to? Nice to see you as well, Jim. Thanks for joining me on this edition of Wednesday Night Live. Evening, James. How are you? As we kick off a new month here now, it is the month of July. John, thanks for joining me. It's Jen. It's Jen Bin's Stolen Willow Farm. Hard to believe it's July already, but it certainly is. In fact, tomorrow is the 4th of July. For many of you, this is a long holiday weekend. Hope you get a chance to get out and enjoy it. Take advantage of it. No coyote season equals deer management. What county? Have no idea, Ed. No idea. It really doesn't matter, though, right? It could be any county in Michigan. It could be any county across much of the country, right? Afternoon, Bill. How are you? John, I got the notification issue that some have here on Facebook. I get it in a news feed, just not at the pop-up thing. Whatever it's called, either way, I now know how to tune in and do it. Thank you, John. Appreciate that. I was saying last week that we were having some problems with people not getting their notifications when I go live. And it's not on my end. It's on yours, or it's a Facebook issue. Tony didn't go fishing today. Might try tomorrow if the wind isn't too bad. Tony, the wind this summer has been crazy, hasn't it? It's been fighting us constantly. I know on Saginaw Bay, and I would suspect most big water across the state. It's just been blowing like crazy this summer. But when you can get out there, there's fish. I'm going to talk about fishing on this week's Outdoor Magazine radio show, as well as Fixed It on your end, Rick says. So, Rick, tell me again, what did you do on your end to get the notifications? Let me see if I can find your earlier post, or wasn't that you? No, that was John who said that. So what did you do? Ed says he had to subscribe. Johnny Bowler, good afternoon from a campsite out in the bush of Bowler County. Back from the hospital. Dennis, I didn't know you were there, but I'm glad you're back home. Hope things are going well. Johnny Bowler, the Bear Whisperer. I will be hunting with Johnny September 25th, right? Yes. Cliff, remember, we celebrate the 4th and our nation's freedom to thank those who served and serving now for freedom. Absolutely. It's lots of fish. Rick says he went to settings and he clicked on the notifications. Well, if it's that simple, my friends, go to your settings right now and click on notifications and make sure you get notified when I go live. Johnny says 2 20-inch walleye this morning and a few brookies this afternoon. So you're officially on vacation right now, eh, Johnny? Or did your vacation start last Friday night when you came down to St. Stan's? Evening, Dave. Nice to have you along with us. Appreciate it so very much. I want to talk a little bit about, well, let's see what else is on here. I talked about the wind. I'll come back to that. It is July. It is officially Michigan Wildlife Conservation Month as proclaimed or declared by our governor. Excellent, Brian. Good luck. Have fun. Thank you, Johnny. You know how to get them to me. I look forward to it. Jerry, how are you? Thank you. Mike, Michigan Outdoorsman. I think it's wonderful that July has been declared the official Michigan Wildlife Conservation Month. But I think we should celebrate Wildlife Conservation Month every month, right? And I'm sure the Michigan Wildlife Council had something to do with this, something behind this. And I support those folks absolutely. But to say, okay, this is Wildlife Conservation Month. It's like in April when we do Earth Day. Well, this is Earth Day, or this is whatever. We as the ultimate conservationists, hunters and anglers and shooters and trappers, we celebrate Earth conservation every day, every month. We can't narrow it down just to 1 month or 1 day. Okay, I'm going to check Johnny Bowler's picture. Oh, Johnny, nice, buddy. Hey, look at that bear, Johnny. If you blow that up, there's a bear on the far bank of the creek or the river. Look at him. He's right behind that blowdown, that deadfall there. I have to show you big stream brown. I caught 24 3/4 inches. Send it. I'll post it. Good question, John. I wonder why they picked July for it. Maybe because it was available. Art Lewis, he says, good evening to his twin brother. Art and we do look a lot like twins. I'm a little better looking well, it can be, look, it goes back and forth, whether Art is better looking and I'm smarter, or whether I'm better looking and Art's smarter. It goes back and forth. Depends on who you're talking to. It did turn out to be at Wormont today, didn't it? Austin. Somebody was asking what county that picture's from. Sorry, suddenly a dry throat. I suspect somewhere in mid-Michigan. Mike Smith, you fishing tomorrow, Mike? How'd you do today? Mike, there was a guy on this morning who was going to head to that spot that we fished last summer, that really shallow spot, and he was going to let me know how he does. When I hear from him, I will let you know. But if that spot is hot, that's where I will go to for my next trip. Johnny says, exactly. I got that bear tied up for you. Art says, we're both smart with outstanding looks. Very true. What's in my tumbler? Crystal Light. You mean my overpriced Yeti? Crystal Light. St. Charles. So Saginaw County. That picture was from Saginaw County. Now, you might remember Austin is the guy. I got his comment up here right now. He's the guy who last week sent me that very cool trail cam video of the doe walking across the screen with 4 fawns behind her. Well, today he sends me video and a couple of still pictures of the same area, same trail camera, same framing, and there's a coyote walking through the frame with a fawn in his mouth. Mother Nature. Mike, working a couple days, charter doubles this weekend, report today. That spot was steady. That's my backup if the wind blows. If the wind doesn't blow even, that's going to be my primary, I think. Austin says, we think he got 2 fawns. Oh, you think that's 2 different fawns? By the way, this guy right here, Art Lewis of WSGW, will be joining us for the first annual Mike Avery Outdoors Charity Golf Outing. We're filled up. We're full. But we've got room for you. Johnny Bowler got to spend some time with his brother-in-law and sister-in-law and nephews. Oh, that's outstanding, Johnny. Not to mention St. Stan's and their Polish beer. Mike says that's deep spoon bite has just been good. Hard to vacate that if you can get out there. I agree. And I was talking to Brad Dupuis, Mr. Angler Quest today, and his deep water spoon bite has been on fire the entire summer. And he's not going to leave it. He said there's too many fish out there, and they're just and some pretty good sized fish too, as you were saying the other day, Mike. Guest in the second hour on Saturday. Well, you're getting ahead of me here. Hey Brent, how are you, buddy? Nice to have you along with us on this edition of Wednesday Night Live with me, Mike Avery, here from my office at the house, talking about the fact that it's now July. The wind has been blowing. The fishing when you can get out is pretty good. July is also the time to apply for your fall turkey applications. Now, this is one you don't want to let go because even if you don't plan on going out and actively hunting turkeys this fall, you and I both know that as you're sitting out there in a deer blind, a ground blind, or a tree stand this fall, it's a given you're going to have a flock of birds walk by you. Now, in the fall, you can take a bearded bird or a hen. So you can take a tom, a jake, a hen. Fair game. They're all legal targets. So rather than sit out there in November 10th or October 20th and go, oh man, look at that big long beard. I wish I had a tag. Get your tag right now. Go to michigan.gov/DNR or go to the app on your phone and apply for a fall tag. I don't know if it's an application or if it's just you apply and we get you a tag. I don't know. But definitely, I'm going to make myself a note to do it. Hey, Jim, hope you get a great bear this year. I'm excited for you. Thank you. I appreciate that. It's all in the hands of Johnny Bowler, the Bear Whisperer. Evening, Jeff. Any date for Brad to restart Angler Quest? He's in the process still of working on the prototype. He said the process isn't going as fast as he would like, but he said it's going very well, meaning he's happy with what they're coming up from. It's just moving slower than what he would like. I did notice, Art, that you say Angler Quest Quest because the new Angler Quest will be Angler Quest Quest. Believe me, my friends, as I know more, you will know. I tried to post the podcast with Mr. Angler Quest, Brad Dupuis, on the Angler Quest owners Facebook page, but for some reason it wouldn't post. Brad and I are trying to figure that out. But if you go to let's see, if you go to just do a search for Angler Quest podcast and you'll find the one that says things are changing. That's the one with Brad. Check it out. Mike down in Marlette, how are you this evening, Mike? Appreciate you joining me on this edition of Wednesday Night Live with me, Mike Avery. My show, by the way, my radio show is called Outdoor Magazine. It's heard on 33 stations across the state. The podcast is available anywhere you can hear podcasts. My website, MikeAveryOutdoors.com, MikeAveryOutdoors.com. My email address is Mike@MikeAveryOutdoors.com. I would love to hear from you. Before I get to the rundown, because that's going to take some time discussing it tonight, let me just give you a quick reminder that time is rapidly running out to join us for the Mike Avery Outdoors charity golf outing to benefit MUCC's youth camp. That outing is Monday, July 29th at the West Branch Country Club. Now we have a full field, but we can add more, meaning we've got 18 four-man teams. Actually, we got like 20, 21 four-man teams, but we can double up those foursomes on some of the holes. So if you want to be a part of it, or if you want to sponsor, go to mucc.org/golf, mucc.org/golf. I promised the folks who stepped up to help sponsor this event that I would give them a shout out. Security Credit Union, Northern Jack Pine branch of the National Deer Association, GFL Services, my buddy Craig Plowman, Scott Keatsman of Linwood Taxidermy, Michigan Brand Meats, my brother-in-law and sister-in-law, John and Debbie Craves, my brothers and sisters over at Trinity Monitor, the Athletic Boosters, and the Wild Game Dinner Committee. Fish Junkie Charters, JT, you were on here earlier. Thank you. Diebold Insurance, Yider Insurance, Heine Knapp, Vernon Insurance, Pizza Sam's of Midland, Whitmore Lake Rod and Gun Club, and T.J. Johnson Forestry. Those are the companies that have come on board now to help sponsor the event. And again, we're there to raise money for MUCC's youth camp. What a good cause that is. If you want to join us, you've got time, but don't wait because we have to give the insurance company that is covering the hole in one. Hart Buick GMC from West Branch has got a deal with us where if somebody gets a hole in one on a certain hole, I don't know what it is, if they get a hole in one, you win a new car that's covered by insurance, and we have to tell them how many golfers we have. So we're gonna lock this down. We're gonna close it down very, very soon. Cliff said he saw Iowa was the fifth state to ban trail cameras on public lands. What do you think of that, folks? Should trail cameras on public lands be banned? Uncle Johnny, I was just mentioning that you and Aunt Debbie stepped up and helped sponsor the event. I appreciate that very, very, very much. When is the next event at the Lumberjack Restaurant? It'll be in September, but not until then. John says he got his bear tag as well. What do you think of Brandon's asking me, what do you think of the new proposal being voted on July 11th to make the early and late doe season expand to state land, also bring back baiting in counties with no CWE evidence with a few changes? Here's the thing, Brandon. It's not necessarily getting voted on July 11th. It's being decided behind the scenes right now and will be announced on July 11th. I talk extensively about that on the radio show this week, and I'm going to get into that series of conversations here in just a minute. Chad Stewart of the Michigan DNR was on with me today, and I asked him about these things. Because one of the proposals from the DMI, the Deer Management Initiative Group, was to reinstate baiting in the Lower Peninsula for whitetails in counties that do not have disease, either TB or CWD. I think that is a very reasonable suggestion. But I doubt if it's going to happen, because once the DNR/NRC decide to allow baiting once again, it makes them look like they've got egg on their face. Because if there was a biological reason to ban it in the first place, i.e. the spread of disease, and they suddenly say, oh, no, it doesn't spread disease now, they're going to look pretty silly. So I don't think it's going to happen. No problem, Brandon. It's a common misconception. But again, stay tuned. I'm going to talk more about this. Elmer checking in from Petoskey. How are things in the beautiful northwest part of the state? Dave, good evening. It's going on the ballot in August. I don't believe that, Ed. I don't believe that, Ed. Craig Plowman. Opening day, opening early doe on public land really hurts bow hunters since deer will be spooked before October 1st. Did you talk about the coyote season also? Yes, the coyote season was discussed, bear season was discussed, and wolf season was discussed. And all of those three topics involving predators were discussed because their predation on whitetail fawns affects deer management. However, the NRC said, we're not going to deal with those right now. Number one, we don't have the authority to deal with a wolf hunt, so we're going to just take that off the table right now. Number two, issues dealing with bear management will be directed to the bear management group, and issues dealing with coyotes, they're kicking the can down the road. So yes, it was discussed, but it does not look like, from what I'm gathering right now, that will be part of their decisions next week. Cliff says Iowa's basic reasoning was that leaving the cameras on public land is littering because people leave them out all year long. That's interesting. And I wonder, Cliff, if that's the real reason or if that's the reason they came up with to justify their actions. Lee, good evening. How are you? Okay. So let's talk about this weekend's radio show. I think it's an interesting show, but of course, I think all of the shows are interesting, some more than others. My first guest this week, Chad Stewart of the Michigan DNR. Chad is the big game specialist for the DNR. He is the guy who is in charge of, he's the head guy. He's the spearhead for the DNR for deer management. I talked to Chad about this whole DMI process, the Deer Management Initiative. Now, I originally misspoke with Chad, and he corrected me, and I'll tell you what my mistake was. I thought there was a DMI, a Deer Management Initiative group, for the UP. I thought there was one for the Northern Lower, and I thought there was one for the Southern Lower. Chad corrected me. There was one for the UP, There was one for the lower, and there was one for the tribes. Okay. So they were charged with coming up with something to save deer hunting in Michigan, because deer hunting in Michigan is in trouble. Completely revamping the way that we deal with deer. I mean, in the southern part of the state, there's too many deer. In the UP, there's not enough deer. So they were trying to come together. Craig says, "No, there's no science to back up bait ban. Other states with CWD allow it. I'm just telling you what they're telling me." So the groups met. They passed along their findings and their recommendations to the DNR and the NRC a few weeks ago. And last week, the NRC met to look at the topics and the issues. John says, big backer of getting baiting back either through the NRC or the legislation, just don't want things on the ballot. Exactly. We don't want issues like this on the ballot. Evening, Jeff. Donnie Krizak of Krizak's house in the south end of Bay City. It was good to see you at Walleye for Warriors. Don catered the event. The food was wonderful as always. Don, you're a good guy. Nice to have you along with us. And if you're in the south end of Bay, in fact, south end, if you're in Bay City and you're looking for lunch or dinner, go to Krizak's. Or breakfast, go to Krizak's. You won't regret it. So, all right, let me go through the entire rundown. Then I'll come back point by point. That I had Chad Stewart on, and then I have Tom Campbell of Woods and Water News. He talks about the fact that their big outdoor weekend is coming up just a couple of months away. There's still time to get involved if you want. The second hour, Luke Pulaski of the Outdoor Conquest. Luke has been posting some phenomenal videos on YouTube. He's going out in the middle of Lake St. Clair in a kayak and targeting giant muskies. And he's catching them and he's recording it and he's documenting it. And it's very cool. Then Jordan Hoover, who was a member of the UPDMI, the Upper Peninsula Deer Management Initiative Group. I get his thoughts. More on that in a minute. In the third hour, Jerry Gostinek talks about bass fishing in Michigan. Now, I'm not a bass fisherman, so I don't get as fired up about that as others do, but Michigan is one of the top bass fishing destinations in the country. And of course, we wrap it all up with Wild Game Chef Extraordinaire Dixie Dave Miner. This week, Dave has my absolute favorite recipe, and it's crayfish, crawdaddies. We used to have those at the restaurant, and they were stupid good. Okay, let me catch up on a couple of comments, then I'll come back to my thoughts. These urban bucks are getting big right now, aren't they? They're very, very impressive. Hello, George. Get the dang politics out of deer management, like back in the day when we had deer before the kill the deer agenda in 2000, after dropping the ball with drip funding to establish habitat. Muskies, yes. I agree. George, and this is why, and I told Chad Stewart this on the air. I said, Chad, I have absolutely lost my passion for deer hunting. I said, I do it because I want to continue the history and tradition, and I don't want to let it fade away in my life or in my family, but I have no passion for it. And the reason, Chad, I don't have any passion for it is all the crap surrounding deer hunting. The excessive regulations, the pressure from other hunters about, not, he wasn't big enough to shoot or whatever, the QDM, the baiting, there's so much the politics around deer hunting that I just can't enjoy it like I used to. Okay. So one of the questions I asked Chad was, because I had heard from a very, very reliable source that when they got this information to the NRC, and the NRC was to look at it at the meeting last week, the NRC wasn't really even interested in much of what the UP group had to say. I've also heard that the DNR had this huge presentation prepared that they wanted to present, and the NRC said, we're not interested. I asked Chad about that. I specifically asked him a question with those 2 points. And Chad had to dance around it. And I get that. And I knew he was not in a position to be able to answer it because he can't, because he works for the DNR and he has to keep, he can't make the NRC, he can't piss off the NRC, right? But at least I got the question out there and I got people thinking about it. Then Tom Campbell of Woods and Water News, Luke Pelosi, Jordan Hoover. Okay, to follow up on this concept, Jordan Hoover was a member of the UP Deer Management Initiative, and Jordan reached out to me and he says, "Hey," he says, I'm pretty mad about this, and I'm willing to go public, and I want to talk about it. In fact, he's on the Outdoor Magazine radio show with me this weekend. I know he's recording a podcast with the folks over at Overdrive Outdoors tonight. Basically what he said was that he's very disappointed and very upset that the DNR, number one, he said, many of the commissioners seem to be very confused by the issues. And he said, that's disappointing because we put our proposal in their hands weeks ahead of time, weeks ahead of the meeting. He said they were really confused about it. Some of them. He said, and some of the others just weren't interested in seeing the information that was to be presented. And he's also not happy that the public input was limited. It was very limited. Now I get that, right? Because it was going to become heated and it was going to get off track. I mean, if you want to start an argument in Michigan, you talk politics, religion, or deer management, right? Because people are very, very passionate about it. But anyway, he's not happy with how it went. He's not happy at all with how it went. Ed says he wants to kayak Lake St. Clair. You don't want to do it in the daytime or you don't want to do it on the weekend. That's one of the things that Luke was telling me. I said, are you worried about recreational boat traffic? He said, absolutely. Absolutely. He said, that's why I go early in the morning. Joe, how you doing, Pastor? Good evening. Nice to have you along with us. Tim says, I don't understand how the how the NRC can't listen to the DNR. Well, George, I'm going to come back to this in just a second here. Thank you for that, by the way. I didn't know that had already been recorded. I never had any feelings one way or another towards the NRC, the Natural Resources Commission. I just thought, okay, they're part of the process, and that's what it takes to get things done in Michigan until this whole coyote hunting, the end of year-round coyote hunting. And it appeared to me that they were more concerned about social pressure and the perception of non-hunters than they were sound scientific, biological, wildlife management practices. So that's when I really started to think, is the NRC really the best way to do this? And I'm not convinced that it is, but we're so firmly ensconced in this system, I don't know how we would get out of it. Okay, so George says, here's the link to the podcast. Advance the player out to 1 hour, 25 minutes. Caution, it does get spicy. Thank you, George. I did not realize this had already been recorded. I thought they were recording it tonight. So that's the link to the podcast. If you go to Overdrive, I want to get rid of this because it feels like I'm looking over the top of it. If you want to do a search for Overdrive Outdoors, you can find it. Michael, good evening. How are you? The guys at Overdrive are great guys. And I think Jordan's a good guy too. Ed says, make sure you kayak on the Michigan side. Avoid the Canadian government. Randy, how are you, buddy? You been fishing? Mike says it is food plot time. I feel like, Mike, we're right in the middle. I feel like we're in food plot lull. I feel like, most folks wanted to get their food plots in early June-ish, and then they'll start again in Augustish. But I feel like right now we're in a lull. I didn't realize that you're considering this food plot planning season. But since I'm not really involved in that too much, I'm not arguing with you. I'm just making a comment. Rapid River Knives really helped me out with a discount, even though it was my fault. And wow, I'm leaving. Okay. Here's the story I was telling you about before. Rabbit Homesteading, Larry, went up to he went online last week or 2 weeks ago to the website rapidriverknifeworks.us. And he made a big order on knives, a big order, but he didn't put the promo code Avery10 in correctly. So he didn't get the discount. Larry, Rabbit Homesteading, reached out to me. I reached out to Chris Durson, who owns Rapid River Knives, the company that makes these knives right here. Okay, beautiful knives. I explained it to him and he said, "Hey, we'll just give the guy a gift card for the shop." So they took care of him. A follow up on Rapid River. The website right now is being revamped. So it's down to the point where they're not taking that promo code. If you go to rapidriverknifeworks.us and try to put in that promo code right now, it will not work. However, you can still go to Jay's Sporting Goods in Clare or Gaylord, or go to jsportinggoods.com and use the promo code Avery10 there, and they will honor that 10% discount. However, of course, you won't get the selection of knives you will if you go to the factory. Good evening, Mark. Thank you for procuring that sponsorship for GFL. I was listing our sponsors earlier, GFL Environmental Services. Thank you. And thank you, Mark, for making that happen. I look forward to seeing you at the first annual Mike Avery Outdoors Charity Golf Outing at the West Branch Country Club. We're full, but we got room for more. We can always sneak more people in. mucc.org/golf. Randy says he's been in the skinny water. Not my skinny water, right, Randy? Because I didn't get a notification on my phone that you were in my skinny water. Now, I have it set up usually. You can't see them, but I have a set of sensors out there that constantly scan the surface of the water. Plus, I've got one. It's not up in a satellite, but it's up in it's up there. So, and it's looking down. And all of these sensors are keeping track of that skinny water. And if a boat goes in there without notifying me, I get a notification that there's somebody in my skinny water. I didn't get the notification that you were in there. So I'm thinking you must have been in some other skinny water. Mark, good evening. Nice to have you along with us. Craig says, nope. Disband the NRC. Too much politics in the NRC. What's the sense of banning cameras on state land? Well, forgive my ignorance, did we do that in Michigan? Have we banned trail cameras on state land in Michigan? Brent says he loves his Rapid River knives. You can't not love Rapid River knives. They are absolutely, they're gorgeous. They're beautiful. This one, by the way, is woolly mammoth handle. Can you order Avery 10 from Jay's? You can. You can. Craig says people put up cameras, leave them all year to reserve that part of state land for them. I still want to know, did Michigan ban trail cameras on public land? I honestly, I wasn't aware of that. Jeff says it's rare I get to listen in the morning and at night. Good day. Well, Jeff, it is a good day, and I appreciate you being along with me for both versions of the live stream. The Behind the Mic segment that I do every Wednesday morning at 8:45 from the Outdoor Magazine radio studio. And then this segment tonight called Wednesday Night Live that I do usually from my office here at the house. I occasionally take the Wednesday Night Lives out on the road. We used to go to Dixie Dave's restaurant. We used to go, we do go to the Lumberjack, Forward Corporation Lumberjack. By the way, the Lumberjack is having discounts on rooms if you need a room for the golf outing. You might want a room either Sunday night or Monday night because, and I haven't done a very good job of publicizing this, Craig, but after the event, there is a dinner. We're giving you, I don't know if it's prime rib or steak dinner or what. That's part of the money you paid. You get lunch at the turn, you get you get the golf and you get a cart, but you also get dinner. So it's going to be a long day. Yeah, skinny water cameras, Dave. Mike says, if I go to Jay's and say Avery 10, would they give me a deal or look at me funny and kick me out of the store? No, they'll give it to you. They'll give it to you. They will give it to you. Somebody asked me about if there's a limit, and maybe I didn't come to that yet, a limit on the number of knives you can get. Brent says, is it possible to have too many? He's asking for a friend. No, it is not. Oh, Ed says, what's the limit on knives? There is no limit. You could order 25 knives and say, I want the promo code Avery10, and you'd get the 10% discount on all of them. Craig says, I have cameras out all year. They're tended to all year. Also have lost state land hunting spots because people move in too close. That's the risk of hunting state land. I still want to know, did Michigan ban trail cameras on state land? I don't think we did. At least I don't remember hearing about it. And I'd like to think that I would remember. Patrick said he bought his knife from Chris's son Saturday. Nice kid. I have not met Chris's son yet. Cliff says Iowa banned the cameras. They said that cameras need regulations like tree stands and blind, like dates you put them out when you take them out. I don't have a problem if they made a regulation you had to put your name and phone number on a camera. That's fine. Joe says he doesn't think Michigan did that. I don't think Michigan did it either. Larry says he's also dealt with Rabbit Homestead. He says he's also dealt with jays and so happy with them. I love jays. Michigan currently has no bans. Craig says Michigan has not banned trail cameras that I know of. And I don't know of it either, and I'd like to think I would. Here's what you cannot do as far as hunting in Michigan. You can't use a drone. You can't use a drone to scout, and you can't use a drone to recover a fatally wounded animal or just find an animal you've shot. I think that's a shame. Using tracking dogs has gone a long way towards recovering deer and bear. But these drones are pretty slick. I mean, they're not the couple $100 DJI drones like I got from Costco. These are big, expensive thermal drones run by licensed professional drone pilots. They put those things up in the air and they can see everything there. And they can really, I think it would be a wonderful tool here in Michigan. I don't know why we don't do it. But, and for all I know, that could have been one of the topics that came up with the DMI groups, the Deer Management Initiative groups. My problem with that process is I felt like it was a little bit secretive. Going back to when the groups were first formed, I asked the DNR for a list of people who were on the groups. I wanted to know who made up the groups, and they said, we can't give it to you. They said the only way that you can get it is to file a Freedom of Information request. So that kind of got me off on the wrong foot with the whole DMI process. I would like to see, and I don't think it's been posted. George, are you still on there? Can you help me out? Has it been posted anywhere online? Has anybody come out and posted what the Lower Peninsula DMI or the UP DMI, what their recommendations to the NRC were? I'd like to see that. Craig says drone recovery video on YouTube. It's amazing what they can do. It is. It's absolutely amazing. Joe says we don't do it because of bureaucracy. Why? There's a company in St. Clair County that uses drones. If they're using drones to recover animals or to scout animals, they're doing it illegally. It is illegal in Michigan to use a drone to hunt. Lori, how are you? Hey, Rob, how are things up in White River? Agree. Should be no restriction on retrieving your game, but maybe you have to be able 100% to be able to 100%. Maybe have to be able to 100%. It is for retrieval. I don't know. Found 8 missing dogs. Yeah, you could use it for your dogs too. George, no, I've not seen a public posting. It was discussed at the work group meeting last week in Traverse City. George, were you maybe you don't want to tell me, but I know you are very much in the know. Were you part of the DMI? Were you a member of the Deer Management Initiative? Aditya, how are you, buddy? Nice to have you along with us. My son-in-law, Aditya, greatest guy in the world. Well, he's not the greatest guy in the world, but he's a great guy and one of the great guys in the world. I mean, if I said he's the greatest guy in the world, that's going to alienate a lot of other people and family members. So he's one of the greatest guys in the world and just a really, really great guy. And I'm very, very lucky and very blessed to have Aditya as my son-in-law and the future father or the father of my future grandson. In October, coming in October. Joe says it's also illegal to put out apples, but you can plant an apple tree. Some things don't make sense. They don't. Exactly. They don't make sense. Craig says, I believe the DNR Watchdog Facebook group had DMI recommendations. I will look for that. George says, nope, not a member. They tossed my app just before yours. I did apply to be part of the DMI. And I told them flat out, I said, I answered the questions accurately. I said, I hunt deer, but I'm not passionate about it. I have some thoughts of how things can be better. And they decided not to draw my name, just like they didn't draw George's name. Interesting, Rick. Can't fly a drone and hunt the same day, like flying into a hunting camp? Well, you can fly a drone, Rick. That's an interesting question. Could you fly a drone earlier in the day to scout animals and then go back at night to hunt them? I'm going to say the answer is no. Having spent some time with our Michigan game wardens, having worked with them in the past and actually being a volunteer conservation officer for many years, I'm sure they would look on that as the process of using a drone to take game. I am sure they would. Mark says he did read the DMI recommendations for the lower. He read it somewhere. I'm thinking they'll get the DNR, the drones for tracking at some point. Also thinking, see, at this point, John, I don't really care who was on the group. I don't. I did at the time because I wanted to know how they were forming them, what types of people would be on there. Yeah, Elmer, it's like this. He said, sure, it's funny you can't bait, but every gas station sells beets and carrots. But you don't know that those beets and carrots aren't going to the UP where it is legal to bait. It's back like when pot was illegal. You couldn't have pot, but the shops could sell pot paraphernalia. Tim says, but I can fly a drone over my property any time of day, 365 days a year. I saw your second post there. I'm thinking just 265. What's up with the other 100? Okay. As I wrap this up, next week we will hear more from the NRC, what they are thinking, what they are deciding as far as their recommendations for deer hunting this fall. I will talk more about that next week. Is that going to be next week? Yeah, I think it's next week. Although I may not be able to cover that on the radio show for a couple of weeks because I think that's on Thursday and the show will already be in the can. If you want to get involved in the golf outing, you've still got time, but you're running out of time. We have a full field, but we can squeeze in some more. If you decide you want to become suddenly very benevolent and help out the cause by donating some money to MUCC's youth camp, or if you want to play at the last minute, but don't wait any longer, do this now. Go to the website, mucc.org/golf, mucc.org/golf. And you can sign up. Love to have you. You don't have to be a great golfer. You don't even have to be a good golfer. You have to be somebody who wants to have a good time, get out there, maybe smoke a couple of cigars. If you want to drink a beer, who am I to judge? My granddaughter, my lone granddaughter, Addison, thinks it's very cool about all these grandsons because she likes being the only granddaughter. Safe and enjoy our freedom. Remember to think of that. Absolutely. Safe and blessed 4th. Absolutely. Listen, it is going to be a long 4th of July extended weekend, so I hope you have a chance to get out and have some fun. Do what it is that you enjoy. As a wild game chef extraordinaire Dixie Dave Miner says at the end of each show, if he gets a chance, if I don't cut him off, he says, hey, be safe and sane, everybody. That's good advice for this 4th of July weekend. Be safe and sane. My name is Mike Avery. The show is called Outdoor Magazine. The radio show is Outdoor Magazine. This right now I'm doing is called Wednesday Night Live. My website is MikeAveryOutdoors.com. That's MikeAveryOutdoors.com. My email address is Mike@MikeAveryOutdoors.com. Same to you, Aditya. Craig says every beer lowers your score, and that's what you want in golf, right? Lower your score. Thank you, Brent. All right, everybody's saying have a good night. I will say it right back to you. Happy 4th of July. Have a great 4th of July. I'll talk to you next time right here on Wednesday night.